my heart. I give up the fight. I am free. I am the light. My new life is calling. New life is calling. New life is calling me. My new life, new life, new life is calling me.
Hi, and welcome to today's show. I'm Deb Cross, the producer of Celebration of Life Studio. And the video clip that we just watched was the song that was recorded was written by a friend of mine, Leah Wolfsong, who lives up in Maine. And I had specifically asked her to write a song and compose a song because I was working on a movie called Harmony in the Heart, and that was about 20 years ago. And I was thinking about, like relationships and turning your life and your will over to God, and, how you can transform your life and become the person that you are meant to be. And so today's topic is going to be in 12-step programs, they talk about, taking step 3 and 11. Step 3 is when you turn your life and your will over to God. And, excuse me, as most of you know that have watched the show, I've got 37 years of continuous sobriety, and on a daily basis, I get up in the morning and I turn my life and my will over to God. And and I don't know about other people, but I can speak for myself. Is like sometimes it's difficult to discern whether it's your will or God's will, and when you walk a spiritual path and you try to do the best that you can, and sometimes it can be challenging. And several years ago, probably maybe 15, 18 years ago, I was at a Catholic church retreat center up in Biddeford, Maine, right on the ocean. Beautiful, beautiful spot. And I was reflecting and looking at my life and my relationship with God. And growing up in an Irish Catholic home, I was brought up with the faith in God, but also with that angry, punishing God that any thought, feeling, or whatever was really a sin. So I was up there reflecting and, trying to get reconnected with the God of my understanding. And I went into the bookstore, and one of the nuns that was there, she said to me, "Deb, take this book off. There's a book over there. Take it. I want you to read this." And it was called There's a Hole in My Chest. And it was, I forget, it was written by a Catholic priest. I'm not sure of the name of the author. But it was one of the most profound books I'd ever read in my life, and it was probably, I don't know, less than 100 pages. And I'm not really an avid reader anymore, but I couldn't put this book down because my soul knew that this is something that was meaningful to me, and I kept reading it until I finished it, and way into the wee hours of the morning. And what it talks about is that that even though some people grew up in a dysfunctional family, he claims that you're not really. Yes, you have issues and problems, but it's that there's a hole in your chest, and that you weren't taught things, maybe, and he believed that, God would put somebody in your life for a minute, an hour, a day, a lifetime, a season, and because they would give you the tools that you need to make yourself whole and complete, i.e., fill that hole in your chest. And so I was on the internet, or actually it was on a Facebook page, and this clip came up about Tyler Perry, and he's pretends that he's a woman, and so I'm going to have John roll the clip, and I want you to listen to what Tyler Perry has to say about people coming into your life for a reason or a season.
Some people come in your life for a lifetime, some come for a season. You got to know which is which. And you're going to always mess up when you mix them seasonal people up with lifetime expectations. You can't. They got people that got married with people they was only supposed to be with for a season. And they got married to people they only supposed to be with for a season and wonder why they having so much hell in their life. That was the person that was supposed to come and teach you one thing. You didn't know it, so you just fell in love. And now you wonder why you ain't got no peace, nowhere you go. No. Listen, I put everybody that come in my life in the category of a tree. Some people are like leaves on a tree. The wind blow, they over here. They unstable. Blow the other way, they over here. Ain't nothing. Season change, they wither and die, they gone. That's all right. That's some people, most people in the world are like that. They just there to take from the tree. They ain't there to do nothing but take and give shade every now and then. That's all they can do. But don't get mad at people like that. That's who they are. They ain't gonna never be nothing. That's what they put on this earth to be, but be what they are, a leaf. Some people are like a branch on that tree. You gotta be careful with them branches too, because they'll fool you. They'll get there and make you think they're a good friend and they're real strong, but the minute you step out there on them, they'll break and leave you high and dry. But if you find you 2 or 3 people in your life that's like the roots at the bottom of that tree, you are blessed, because that's them the kind of people that ain't going nowhere. They ain't worried about being seen. Don't nobody have to know that they know you. They ain't got to know what they doing for you. But if them roots wasn't there, that tree couldn't live. You understand? And they ain't got a tree can have 100 million branches, but only a few roots down at the bottom to make sure it get everything it needs. I'm telling you something. When you get you some roots, hold on to them. But the rest of it, let it go. Just let it go. Let folks go.
It's not always that easy.
Ain't nobody said it was going to be easy, but it'll get easy when you learn how to love yourself. When you get to a point in your life where you look at people and you go, okay, wait a minute, you or me, you will make a decision. Because when you telling folks to do something, and I never throw nobody away, I've never in my life destroyed nobody would just say, look, don't bother me no more, don't talk to me no more. I've never done it. What I do is I tell you, say, look, this thing you doing right here, that's going to cause a problem. You need to fix that, because if we're going to be friends, we're going to be cool, you got to fix that. And if you don't, we're going to have an issue. If you see somebody fix it or they even trying to fix it, that's somebody that care. Keep them people around. That's a leaf that's trying to grow up and be something else. You understand? But if you tell somebody that what you're doing is hurting me and I need you to stop it, and they keep doing it, they don't care. Move on. Let them go. No matter how much it hurts, let them go. And it'll get easier. I promise you, every day it'll get easier and easier and easier. But you just got to make it through. You hear me, Sonny? And see, you got to learn how to be by yourself, son. People have to learn how to be alone. I don't understand all these people, oh, I need somebody. Lord, where's my man? Lord, where's my woman? That is crazy as hell. If you don't know how to be by yourself, what you going to do with somebody else? Stop praying about it. Shut up and wait. Go work on you. Hell, that's what that time is for, to get yourself together. I'd rather be in a corner by myself with a puppy and a goldfish and be happy than to be sitting around with somebody in my house. I'm wondering what the hell they there for. You would be surprised the things people put up with just to have somebody to say they love them. That's I don't understand. I can't live in dysfunction. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I done come through too much, been through too much hell and high water to come there and let you come up in my adult life and when I'm supposed to be at peace and give me all kind of hell. Only 2 places on this earth you're going to have peace.
Wow. So what did you think about what Tyler Perry's words of wisdom were? And I like the way he does it, because he's obviously a storyteller, and I like the humor that he adds to it. You know, it reminds me of the older generation, where they were really, a lot of them were like the tell it like it is, and because they had a lot of wisdom to share and they had a lot of experience, so I'm coming up on 2 years ago this month. I was diagnosed with cancer, and I think I'm going through that soul-searching experience again, and looking at my life and how grateful that I am that I have all this sobriety, of course, and that I'm still cancer-free, and that I have a life and a purpose that God is guiding me to live. And and I was like I said, I was kind of reflecting, and I was looking at, of course I was looking at my own life, and for those of us who are older, we never married, we don't have children, we don't have grandchildren, maybe our families are not a big part of our lives like we would like them to be, because they've got their life and they're out doing their thing, and so what do we do, so where do you find your purpose and your people, or the people. I mean, remember when I first got diagnosed with cancer, I was really scared, and I realized that that I didn't have a lot of people in my life. You know, like Tyler was talking about, if you have 2 or 3 people in your life that are going to be there forever, not maybe necessarily forever, but are going to be a part of your life. And I realized that, wow, I realized how isolated I was, how lonely I was, how, you know, my lifestyle had created the fact that I don't have children because I never married, or grandchildren. And it was extremely scary. And, you know, so that's why I wanted to kind of talk today about, you know, those of us who are outside the box. We always felt like a square peg in a round hole. And, you know, and I'd like to have John play this other clip. Now, there's a woman named Brene Brown, and she is an incredible speaker. And I can see a lot of myself in her. And so I want to have John run this clip now, and I want you to listen to what Brene Brown has to say about us, those of us who are highly creative people.
We've all experienced the pressure to live up to other people's expectations.
We're going through our lives, in our families, at work, in our communities, believing that we're not enough.
And the feeling of failure when we fall short.
Perfection is this idea or belief that if we look perfect, live perfect, and do it perfectly, that we can avoid or minimize feelings of shame, blame, and judgment.
Dr. Brene Brown is a nationally renowned speaker and researcher who has spent the last 10 years studying connection.
We are cognitively, emotionally, physically, I would argue spiritually, hardwired to experience love and belonging. And when we don't, we break.
She shares her insights into being enough in the gifts of imperfection. Here's Dr. Brene Brown.
So one of the things that we do in our personal lives is we try to combat not being enough by pleasing and performing and perfecting. We go through our lives trying to be who we think we're supposed to be, doing and saying what we think people want to hear, putting on whatever mask or face we think we need to put on for that moment. And what that leaves us is exhausted. When we're pleasing and perfecting and performing, we end up saying yes a lot when we mean no, right? Yeah. And we also end up saying no when we mean, oh, heck yes, I want to do that. I really want to do that. And you know what? Even though I have a lot of work, I want to do it now. I don't want to do it 5 pounds from now. I don't want to do it when I'm great. I don't want to do it when I've practiced. I just want to do it now. But we don't have those boundaries when we don't feel like we're worthy and enough. I have this ring. I don't know if you can see it. It's got these little spinners on it, and I bought it for my 41st birthday, the one where I aged 21 years and 12 months. And it has spinners. And my whole new thing is when someone asks me to do something now, I spin my ring 3 times before I answer. And it's my boundary ring. And what I say to myself when I'm spinning it is very simple, and it's choose discomfort over resentment. Brene, can you bring 5 dozen cookies to school tomorrow? Nope. What happens when we say, sure, I'll be glad to bring the cookies up to the school? Like, if you know me, I'm looking at a friend that, one of my fellow PTO people, you know I'll go right into my very high voice. Sure, I would love to. Peanut free, right? And then what happens is you're home in your kitchen, and your kids want you to be kind and gentle with them, but you're like this. I hate these people. I hate these kids. I hope they choke on my cookie, you know? So how do we do things without resentment, you know? And it takes boundaries. So in the end, I think if we take away anything from the authenticity piece, it is about the courage to be imperfect, to be vulnerable, and to set boundaries. Because the whole idea of I am enough starts with enough. Steve and I, for a long time, had a list of everything we wanted, like our achievement list. Maybe a lake house. Like every other person I know, I want a bigger house with a guest room. No one will ever come. But for some reason, it's just like this draw, right, to have the guest room. We just had this list of things that we wanted. Well, when the wholehearted research came out, it fundamentally shifted the way we live, the way we parent, everything. And so we decided to make a list of everything that was happening in our lives when we felt really joyful. Like what's happening, not a want list, but like actually based on evidence, like we're the happiest when what's happening. And we looked at this list, and the list was the opposite of the want list. The want list dictated to us that we needed to work more and make more money, and the joy list meant less work and more time. Here's the part where we all struggle. Worthiness does not have prerequisites. We need to find a way to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. We need to find a way to say, I'm enough. This is who I am. Because I literally believe that our lives depend on it. So thank y'all very much.
I could listen to her talk for a very long time. She is quite the inspirational, motivational speaker. And you know, when she said our lives really depend on this, and I remember about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, one of my naturopathic doctor that I work with, you know, she said to me, Deb, do what makes your heart sing. I went, wow. You know, and in my life when I'm talking to people about, you know, different things, and they can watch my facial expressions, and a friend of mine, excuse me, said to me yesterday, she says, you know, your face tells it all. And I said, you know, I remember when I was a kid, you know, my mother would say to me and to others, you know, if you, Deb can't lie, you know, Deb can't lie. Just look at her face, and she is just so honest and so real. And it's true. You know, I just, and you know, and I'm you know, I'm very proud of that I, you know, have these talents and skills and abilities, but you know, but I never felt worthy. You know, I just really never felt worthy of love, or that I could be a success, and you know, and it's like I said before about with the cancer diagnosis, it has really made me look at my life differently. And, you know, it's not so much that I'm looking at, you know, there's an urgency like, you know, wow, I could die, and there's things that I need to do, and, you know, and all of that. It's that's really not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of life is precious, and I don't want to, you know, I want to walk closer with God, and whatever that means. And, you know, if God, you know, is telling me that, you know, I'm being called in this direction, and maybe it's moving out of this area. Maybe it's going to say goodbye to a lot of people. You know, maybe it's even some of my family members, and, you know, and choosing to walk, you know, a different path with God, and, you know, and make different choices in my life. And, you know, and you know, I know, you know, a lot of us are, you know, probably doing this soul searching of, you know, what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose in my life? And you know, I think some of you are aware, and I think I shared it on the last show about, you know, I became actively involved in this pediatric cancer cluster where literally young children in, you know, 8 years old, 12 years old are literally dying. And it's this pretty scary situation. And, you know, and you know, some of these parents, of course, are extremely distraught. You know, what are we going to do with our children? How can we help? Who do we believe? Who do we trust? What's the solution? Where's the problem? And you know, all of these things are happening. And, you know, and I'm looking at my part to play in this. And, you know, as a cancer survivor myself, and, you know, and I'm looking at, you know, where is this country going? And you know, how can we help? And, you know, and how can I serve? And you know, and when friends talk to me about, you know, what brings joy to your life, and what brings joy to my life is working with children. What brings joy to my life is teaching kids sports. Some of you know that I wrote a book and about, you know, their wonderful days, you know, back in the day at Wallace Sands Beach, and when I start to talk about that, my face lights up, and I get really excited, and I get I just get really excited about, you know, that, you know, and Renee was talking about, you know, whether it's money and work, and, and all these kind of things. And it's like, there's a book that I read many, many years ago, Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. And I've been actively involved with the heroin epidemic. I've testified in Concord, and I testified in support of, homeopathic remedies to help with the trauma with children. And, and I'm looking at these children and I'm wondering, and really, and I'm not being melodramatic, I'm really scared for their future, and these children are experiencing a lot of trauma. And, and a few weeks before the horrific tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, I had spent about 6 months working on this booklet, and I called it Celebrate Your Creativity. And a few days before, I had just actually finished it. And it was talking about, helping kids to express and explore. And it's me really coming into my own person as an artist, as a creative person. And, and a lot of times we're not given a lot of value and worth. It's like if I said to somebody, they're really brave about the videos that I make of their children, and it's like they're 3 minutes long, and so and I do it graciously and lovingly for free. And then when people, I'll say to somebody, well, if you want to hire me, I'd be happy to do one. And and they say, oh, well, we're all set, and it's I got my own camera and I can do this. And because they weren't willing to spend a couple of $1,000s to have a professional photographer and movie maker produce a movie that they just absolutely love, and they don't realize the time and effort that it takes to do that. And a lot of some artists, there's a lot of value and worth that they have, and they make an awful lot of money. But for most of us, that really isn't the case, and so like Tyler was saying, we have to learn to love ourselves. And if loving ourselves to keep us healthy means, walking away from a marriage, or means walking away from family and friends, or changing a career. And many years ago, I read this book. It's called Sex If I Didn't Laugh, I'd Cry. And again, I'm sorry, I don't remember the author's name. But that was another book that really touched my soul. And it wasn't about sex at all. The title is kind of misleading. But what it was about is that this man lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, was living the good life, and multi-million-dollar job. He worked in New York City, and his wife, was a very demanding woman, and she wanted all the material things, and he gave her all that. And he had a massive heart attack and almost died. And while he was in the hospital, I guess he found God, and he became, he started looking at his life and looking like, what am I going to do differently? And so he ended up walking away from the job. I'm not sure whether he left his wife or not. I don't remember. But he went out in the Midwest and he started teaching in a college, and the course that he taught was about hugging. And in his research, he realized that people, Sex If I Didn't Laugh, I'd Cry, like hardened criminals, really what they wanted is somebody to hold them. They didn't want sex necessarily, but they were men, and they were uncomfortable saying that they just wanted to be loved and they wanted to be held. And, and I believe that, and so he would just teach people how to hug, and teach people how to, and he was also teaching them how to look at their lives, do like a really big soul search, dark night of the soul, whatever you call it, and figure out what's important in their life, what's really important, and to reprioritize things. And he became very, very successful. And, he realized that the people that he interviewed, like I said before, the criminals in prisons, is they just really wanted to be held. And then I think he also has some data and research about, children in orphanages, I think in the war-torn countries, and they were just left there, and they weren't touched or held, and some of them literally died. And there's talking about, that human need to be loved, to be held, to be nurtured, and like Tyler was saying, you have to learn yourself, and you have to nurture yourself, and so, for some of us, when you have a life-threatening illness, and like this gentleman who, had a heart condition, it's really those wake-up calls. And if the message that I'd like to leave with you today is that, that those old people, why do you don't the young you don't necessarily have to wait until you reach a crisis in your life, or somebody dies and you wish you had said this or done that, or your life would have been different. And there's a lot of incredibly wonderful people out there. If some of the young people are watching the show, they really do care about you, that really want to help. And, you might say, well, we got these old people, and what do you know? And, it's a different generation. And you bet it is. It's a different generation. But it doesn't mean that we don't care. And it doesn't mean that we can't help. And it doesn't mean that we don't believe in you. And it doesn't mean that you don't have value and worth. And I can't speak for all adults, but what I can say is that it's that you children do have a voice, and I really would encourage you to talk to the older people and share with them what's going on in your life, because a lot of them will listen. And I'll see you next week.